There are towns where the dark feels like it's paying attention, where the night doesn't just fall, it leans in. Before we dive in, hit that like button and subscribe. It keeps the lights on while we walk into places that don't want us there. Detective Elias Ward had seen his share of grim scenes in North Briar, but the call that pulled him out of bed at 4:12 a.m. carried a tone he didn't recognize. Controlled panic, the kind a dispatcher uses when they don't want their voice to shake. A girl, Myra Dalton, age 19, had vanished sometime between midnight and dawn. Just another missing person case on paper, but Elias knew better the moment he stepped onto the Daltons' porch. The house wasn't grieving yet, it was holding its breath. Officer Riley Shaw met him at the door, arms folded tight. "You're not gonna like this one," she muttered. "When do I ever?" Inside, Myra's parents sat in the living room, pale in the dim lamplight. Elias didn't ask questions, not yet. He raised a hand gently. "Show me her room." Mrs. Dalton led them upstairs. Her steps were small, careful, like she was afraid the hallway itself might break. Myra's bedroom looked untouched. Bed made, backpack gone, curtain half drawn. Childhood trophies lined the shelves in neat rows that hadn't been disturbed in years, but Elias noticed the temperature first. Cold. Wrong cold. Not open window cold. Presence cold. Then Officer Shaw exhaled sharply. "Oh hell." On the window, carved into the glass from the inside, was a single word, clean, perfect, 6 letters, harvest. Elias' pulse thudded once hard. No jagged strokes. No hesitation cuts. No cracks in the pane. Whatever carved it in had pressed smooth, steady, deliberate. Mrs. Dalton whispered, "That wasn't there yesterday, and Myra never opened this window, ever." Elias leaned close, angling his flashlight along the grooves. They didn't reflect like normal scratches, they absorbed light, as if the glass itself had been burned inward. Shaw whispered behind him, "You're thinking the Holloway case, right? The girl back in 2011. Elias didn't look up. Same word, same glass work, same age bracket. And same woods, Shaw added quietly. Because everyone in North Briar knew where Myra had last been seen, a roadside camera caught her walking toward the entrance of Ravenmoor Trail, a decayed path no one cleared anymore. A place where people went in and didn't always come out. Elias straightened. "Get me the footage, full feed, and call in a search team." Shaw hesitated. "There's something else." She handed him a printed still from the traffic camera. Myra walking along the shoulder, thin jacket, hair pulled back, and behind her, near the tree line, blurred but unmistakable, a figure. Too tall, arms too long for its frame, head tilted, watching her. Timestamp, 2:39 a.m. 6 minutes before she vanished. Elias felt a chill trace his spine. "That isn't human," Shaw didn't argue. Elias turned back toward the carved word. Harvest, 12 years, 6 disappearances, 1 signature. He whispered, "We're dealing with the same hunter." And this time it had left a message. If you've ever walked somewhere that felt like it was watching you first, you'll understand what happens next. Before we push deeper, hit like and subscribe. It keeps this case alive. Detective Elias Ward reached the entrance of Ravenmoor Trail just after 5 a.m. Fog clung low to the forest floor in thick, unmoving sheets. The sun hadn't committed to rising yet. It only smeared a gray bruise across the horizon. Search teams prepped their gear behind him, but Elias didn't wait. He stepped under the rotted wooden arch marking the trailhead. The same arch that locals joked was older than the town and twice as angry. Leaves cracked beneath his boots. But not all the footprints belonged to him. 15 steps in, he stopped. A small silver charm lay half buried in the dirt, a tiny crescent moon on a chain. Myra's. She wore it every day. He crouched, brushing soil off the metal. "She dropped this on purpose," he murmured. Behind him, Shaw caught up. "You good?" "Yeah," he lied, "but she wasn't alone." Because the soil wasn't only disturbed by Myra's lighter steps. There were deeper impressions, wider, spaced too far apart for a normal stride. Shaw noticed them too. "That's not human gait." Elias nodded once. Whatever followed her and didn't care about staying hidden. They moved deeper. The air grew heavier the farther they walked. thick like humidity but cold like winter. Elias had the strange sensation that sound didn't travel normally here, it folded in on itself. A branch cracked somewhere behind them. Shaw spun. "Did you stay close?" Elias said. At the half-mile mark, the path forked left toward the old quarry, right toward the abandoned fire road. The camera footage showed Myra heading right. Elias followed. The forest shifted as though the trees were pressing inward. Ravens perched on branches overhead, unmoving, watching. A few minutes later, something glinted ahead. Elias lifted his flashlight. A phone, face down in the moss. He picked it up carefully. It was Myra's cracked screen, battery dead, but on the back was something new. A smear, dark, dry blood. Shaw whispered, "Ward, something's wrong. This isn't just an abduction." He agreed. Myra wasn't just taken, she was hunted. And then the silence broke. A faint tapping echoed through the trees, not woodpecker tapping, not footsteps. A steady, rhythmic knock-knock-knock like someone gently drumming on hollow glass. Elias' breath hitched. Shaw swallowed. "Tell me that's not coming from the ground." Elias crouched, pressing his palm to the soil. The tapping was coming from beneath. And then a whisper, so faint it could have been the wind, but wind didn't sound like this. "Elias," Shaw's face drained. "Please tell me that wasn't." "Move," Elias said sharply. "Now." They took several steps back just as the earth directly in front of them buckled upward, soil rising like something underneath was pushing to the surface. Then it stopped. Complete stillness. Not a bird, not a breath, nothing. Elias scanned the tree line, gun drawn. A figure stood 50 yards ahead, same height as the one in the footage, same thin frame, same impossible posture. It didn't move, didn't sway, didn't breathe. Elias raised his flashlight. The beam barely touched it, as if the figure absorbed the light instead of reflecting it. Shaw whispered, "What do we do?" Elias stepped forward once. "Identify yourself." The figure responded by lifting one long arm and pointing deeper into the woods, exactly where Myra had gone. Elias felt the cold settle deep into his ribs. "It wants us to follow," he said. Shaw shook her head. "And you want to?" He nodded once, because the creature didn't feel like a threat to them. It felt like a guide toward something worse. Together, they followed the direction of its gesture. But when Elias turned back for one more glance, the figure was gone. Only the trees remained still, silent, and listening. Some places don't just scare you, they wait for you. Before we go further into this mess, hit like and subscribe. You're gonna need the company. Elias Ward and Officer Shaw pushed deeper into Ravenmoor's overgrown maze, following the direction the figure had pointed. The trail narrowed until it didn't feel like a trail at all, more like a throat closing around them. The trees leaned inward, branches clawing at their jackets as if urging them to turn back. But Myra's footprints appeared again, faint but unmistakable, pressed into patches of damp soil. "She was running here," Shaw said quietly. Elias knelt, brushing leaves aside. "Stumbling too, see the drag on the right foot." Shaw bit her lip. "So she was hurt." He didn't answer. The truth was obvious. 20 minutes later, the path curved sharply and opened into a clearing Elias had never seen on any county blueprint. No trail marker, no ranger notes, no reason for it to exist. And at the center stood a house. A small, rotted, two-story structure slumped under its own weight, swallowed by vines and decades of neglect. Windows boarded, paint gone. The whole thing looked like it had been abandoned long before North Briar even existed. Shaw whispered, "This wasn't here last year. I patrol this ridge. I would have seen it." Elias didn't reply, because he felt it too, the wrongness of a place that seemed older than the land around it. They stepped closer. At the base of the porch steps, half hidden in the mud, lay another clue, a torn strip of fabric, purple, thin, frayed. "Myra's jacket," Elias said. Shaw's voice dropped to a whisper. "Then she made it here." He pushed the door open. It groaned like an animal being forced awake. Dust swirled in the beam of his flashlight. The interior smelled of damp wood and something else. Something metallic, old, stale, blood. Inside, the living room was shockingly bare, no furniture except a collapsed chair, no trash, no graffiti. But on the far wall, carved into the scorched plaster in the same flawless style as the word on Myra's window, was another message: her turn. Shaw's breath trembled. Harvest, her turn. Same hand. Elias ran a glove along the carved letters. No hesitation, no slip. Whatever did this doesn't carve, it cuts. A sound echoed upstairs, soft, deliberate, a footstep. Shaw raised her weapon. Someone's here. Elias lifted a hand. Listen. Another footstep, slow, measured. Then a second, lighter step behind it. Not one person, two. Elias whispered, "Back door, cover it." Shaw nodded and moved fast, gun up. Elias climbed the staircase alone. Halfway up, the temperature dropped hard. Frost curled at the edges of the wooden banister. His breath fogged the air. At the top of the stairs, the hall stretched left and right. A shadow moved behind the far door. Elias approached it, pulse steady but heavy. He pushed the door open with the barrel of his gun. Inside was a child's room, dust-coated toys on a shelf, a single bed, a cracked nightlight in the corner, everything untouched except for the footprints. Small, bare, leading from the window to the closet. He whispered, "No, that can't be Myra." The closet door shifted, just a millimeter. "Elias," Shaw's voice echoed from outside. "We've got movement in the tree line." He stepped back from the closet. Another footstep sounded behind him, but when he turned, the hallway was empty. A whisper drifted through the room, thin as dying breath. "Don't go downstairs." Elias froze. Shaw screamed his name. He ran. Down the stairs, across the living room, out the door, just in time to see a figure dragging something limp into the trees. Something with long hair. Myra. Elias bolted after them, Shaw right behind him. The house disappeared behind them as though the forest swallowed it whole. Some things don't hunt you by chasing. They hunt you by waiting where you're about to run. Before we drop into the next nightmare, hit like and subscribe. It means more than you think tonight. Elias tore through the trees, branches whipping across his face, Shaw's footsteps pounding close behind him. The figure ahead moved unnervingly smooth, as if gliding instead of running. Myra's limp form thrown over its shoulder like she weighed nothing. "Ward," Shaw yelled, breath ragged. "Left, cut it off." Elias veered left, sliding on wet leaves, trying to intercept. The figure didn't look back, didn't slow, didn't react, until it abruptly vanished behind a cluster of leaning pines. Elias skidded to a stop. "What the?" A shape stepped into the clearing. Not the tall creature from the trail. A man, human height, human build, long black coat. Black umbrella held perfectly upright over his head, even though the sky was clear. Not a drop of moisture touched him. His shoes weren't muddy. His coat wasn't wrinkled. His presence felt rehearsed. Shaw caught up. "Oh no," she whispered. "Ward, that's..." He lifted one hand, silencing her. The man with the umbrella tilted his head as if studying them. Elias called out, "Where is she?" No answer. The umbrella man simply stepped to the side, revealing a narrow deer path behind him, a path that hadn't been there moments ago. Elias tightened his jaw. "You expect us to follow?" The man dipped his chin once. A nod, quiet, precise. Then the forest lights dimmed. It shouldn't have been possible, there were no lights. But the world felt darker, like the sun had blinked. Shaw whispered, "I hate this, I hate all of this." Elias moved first, stepping past the umbrella man. Shaw grabbed his sleeve. "Elias, stop, this is a trap." "It's literally a trap wearing shoes." He didn't stop. If he wanted to stop us, he would have already. And that's supposed to make me feel better, but she followed anyway. They headed down the narrow path. The air grew heavier again, the same cold weight Elias felt near the child's room. The trees creaked as if warning each other. 50 yards in, they found it. A second clearing. And in the center stood another structure, a crooked wooden shed that looked older than the house, older than the trail, older than the forest itself. Its boards twisted inward, warped as though they were being pulled from the inside. "Ward," Shaw murmured. "There's blood on the door." There was 3 vertical streaks, fresh. Elias approached carefully, gun raised. Then a scream, high, sharp, human. Myra, she was inside. Elias grabbed the handle. On three, but when he yanked, the door swung open easily as if someone on the other side had been waiting. The interior was pitch black. Shaw shined her flashlight. "I don't see." A hand shot out of the darkness. Small, thin, trembling Myra. Elias lunged, grabbing her wrist. "Pull her, get her out." Shaw grabbed Myra's other arm. "Come on," but something in the dark pulled back harder, much harder. Myra screamed again as her body slammed against the doorframe, her foot kicking uselessly at the dirt. Her eyes were wild with terror. "Please, please." Elias dug his heels into the ground. "Let her go." Then something moved in the black behind her, a silhouette, human-shaped but wrong-shaded, wrong-proportioned. It whispered something, too soft to understand, too soft to be meant for ears. Myra's body jerked as if shocked. Elias pulled with everything he had. And then Myra was released so suddenly that both he and Shaw fell backward into the dirt with her landing half on top of them. Shaw scrambled up. "Ward, we need to move." But Elias froze because the shed door was still open, because the darkness inside wasn't empty, because two pale hands now gripped the inside frame. Long fingers, thin, slowly curling outward. Elias dragged Myra to her feet and ran, Shaw covering the rear. Behind them, the shed groaned like something was crawling against its insides. They didn't stop until they hit the ridge overlooking the trail. Shaw collapsed to her knees, shaking. "What was that?" Elias didn't answer. He was staring back at the shed. The door was closed, the forest silent, and the umbrella man gone. Only the trail remained. If you think the worst part is over, you're nowhere near the bottom of this story. Before we descend, hit like and subscribe. We need every lifeline we can get. Myra Dalton wasn't unconscious for long. By the time Elias and Shaw got her to the ranger outpost at the edge of Ravenmoor, she was trembling so violently the thermal blanket couldn't settle on her shoulders. Elias crouched in front of her. "Myra, you're safe now, you're out." She shook her head instantly. "No, no, I'm not. None of us are out, not until he finishes." Elias exchanged a glance with Shaw. Myra's eyes darted toward the forest, toward the direction of the house that had disappeared behind them hours earlier. "There are three," she whispered. "Most people only ever see one. The tall one. But that's not the one who takes you." Elias leaned in. "Then who does?" Myra swallowed. "The man who lives under. He doesn't walk like the others. He drags. He knows every place the ground is hollow." Shaw shivered. "Ground being hollow is not a vibe I like." Before Elias could press further, Myra grabbed his wrist, fingers ice cold. "He marked me," she whispered. "Just like the others, just like." She froze, her breath hitched. And then Elias saw it on the inside of her forearm, faint lines carved into her skin. Not deep enough to bleed, but shallow enough to sting. One word chosen. Shaw recoiled. "No, no. That wasn't on her earlier." Elias' chest tightened. "Who did this, Myra?" Her voice cracked. "He said it's almost time. He said the trail only opens once every few years when enough have been taken. And he said I was the last one he needed." Elias stood. "We're taking her to the station. Non-negotiable." Shaw nodded, grabbing the medical bag. "Cars right outside, but the outpost lights flickered. Once, twice, then died completely." The room plunged into darkness. Myra started sobbing. "No, please, please, not again." Shaw fumbled for the lantern. "Power can't fail here. This grid is independent." A scraping sound dragged across the roof. Slow, rhythmic, deliberate. Elias whispered, "Shaw, lantern, now." She got it lit. A warm glow filled the room. Something thumped against the wall outside. Myra curled in on herself, hands over her ears. "He came through the walls last time. He comes through where the wood is weakest." Another thud. Closer. Shaw raised her gun. "What's the plan, Ward?" Elias grabbed Myra by the shoulders. "Where did he take you first?" "Tell me exactly," she sobbed. "The basement, under the house. But the house didn't have one, not until he made it." The scraping moved across the floorboards above them now. Then a whisper seeped through the ceiling, low and sticky, like breath forcing itself through rotting wood. "She is mine." Shaw's voice broke. "Ward, a cheese in the ceiling." Elias yanked Myra toward the back door. "Move. Both of you move." They burst outside into freezing air. Shaw slammed the door shut behind them. The forest around the outpost was too quiet. No wind, no birds, no insects, just thick, suffocating stillness. Elias pulled Myra close. "Is there another way into that basement? Another entrance?" Myra shook her head, trembling. "No, he builds it where he wants it. It wasn't there one night and the next morning it was. He dug under the house like it was all soft clay." Shaw cursed under her breath. "That shed, the one where we found her, that's not old construction, Ward, that's new." A realization hit Elias like a punch. The shed, the house, the room with the footprints, the false basement Myra described. They weren't different structures. They were different phases of the same structure, moving, rebuilding, reforming. Wherever it was needed, he exhaled. "It's not the house we need to find. It's the ground underneath it." Shaw blinked. "Ward, what exactly are we hunting?" Elias stared at the tree line. "A predator that doesn't stay in one place." Then Myra stiffened suddenly. Her eyes rolled upward. Her breath stopped. And from somewhere deep underground, through soil and stone and roots, a sound rose like a heartbeat waking. Thump, thump, thump. The forest floor trembled. Myra whispered one word before collapsing into Elias' arms. "Run." When the ground starts answering back, that's when you know you're in the wrong place. Before we go any deeper, hit like and subscribe. Trust me, it helps. Myra collapsed the moment Elias and Shaw reached the tree line. Her pulse fluttered fast but uneven, like her body couldn't decide if it wanted to faint or run. "Ward," Shaw said, kneeling beside her, "she's crashing." "We need her awake," Elias answered. "She's the only one who knows where he moved the entrance." Moved. The word echoed in his head like a warning. The ground trembled, faint, rhythmic, not footsteps, something further down. Myra's eyes shot open. "He's underneath. He listens through the dirt." Shaw swallowed hard. "That's not normal, right? We can agree that's not normal." Before Elias could respond, Myra pointed ahead with a shaking hand. Through the trees, something waited, a structure he'd never seen. Not the house, not the shed. A sunken cellar half swallowed by the earth, boards twisted inward as if the soil tried to chew them. Elias whispered, "He built this recently." Myra choked out, "He builds where the ground is soft, where he can come back up." That was all Elias needed. "Shaw, keep her covered." He approached the cellar. The latch was warm like skin. He opened it. A single staircase dropped into darkness. Straight, clean walls pressed tightly around it, packed earth shaped into smooth planes too perfect for human hands. Elias descended. 10 feet, 20, 30. The air grew stale, humid, heavy. At the bottom, a corridor stretched far beyond the reach of his light. The tunnel wasn't built, it was grown, pressed into existence with deliberate precision. He moved forward. Faint sounds echoed, breathing maybe, or shifting soil. Then he saw them. Objects scattered on the floor, a cracked bracelet, a torn sleeve, a broken phone case, belongings of victims. Elias knelt just as a soft tapping echoed from deeper inside. Tap, tap, tap. "Myra," he called. A girl's voice answered. "Help, please." He ran toward the sound. The tunnel narrowed sharply, forcing him to crouch. Claustrophobic earth pressed against his shoulders. The voice grew clearer. "Please don't leave me." He pushed forward and froze. A face stared back at him from the ceiling, pressed into the dirt, eyes hollow, mouth stretched open. The voice that seeped out wasn't human. "She does not belong to you." Elias fired. The dirt face exploded into dust. The tunnel shuddered. Something massive began forcing its way upward. Shaw's scream echoed from above. "Ward, move." Elias turned and sprinted. The earth behind him breaking open like something was tunneling fast, too fast. He shot up the stairs and burst into the cold night air. Shaw pulled Myra back as the cellar door slammed on its own. Boom, the wood shook. Boom, cracks split outward. Boom, the latch snapped free. Elias grabbed both of them. "Run now!" They sprinted through the trees as the cellar erupted, spraying dirt and splinters into the air. And something climbed out, something tall. Something thin. Something that had worn a human shape long enough to forget how to be one. When something climbs out of the ground for you, running stops being a plan and becomes a reflex. Before we finish this, hit like and subscribe. This is the final descent. Elias, Shaw, and Myra sprinted through Ravenmoor as the creature pulled itself from the collapsed cellar behind them. It moved wrong, too tall, too thin, its limbs dragging like they remembered being human, but no longer cared to act like it. "Ward," Shaw gasped. "He's right behind, I know, keep Myra moving." Myra stumbled. Elias caught her. "He marked me," she whispered. "He always comes for who he marks." Another rumble closer. The forest itself seemed to tense. Then Elias saw it, the old logging station ahead. Rusted walls, half-collapsed roof, ugly, solid, concrete foundation. A place the creature couldn't reshape. "We make our stand there," Elias shouted. They pushed inside. The roof sagged under rusted beams, daylight bleeding through holes in the metal. Shaw positioned Myra behind crates. "You stay down," Elias told her. "No matter what." The creature reached the doorway. Its head tilted sideways, joints popping like cracking ice. Fingers curled around the frame, wood bent. A scraping voice leaked from somewhere deep in its chest. "Return her." Elias didn't shoot the creature. He aimed up. "Shaw, take the supports," she understood instantly. Both opened fire on the weakened beams. Sparks rained down. The monster lurched forward, shrieking as the structure groaned. "Keep going," Elias yelled. Shaw's final bullet hit a central joint. The roof buckled, the beams snapped, and the entire station collapsed inward in a roar of metal and dust. Silence. Shaw lowered her weapon. "It's dead, right?" Elias didn't answer. He stepped carefully toward the rubble. A pale arm burst from beneath the... Shaw screamed, stumbling back. "No, no," but then the forest shifted. Fog rolled ahead, parting like a curtain, and the umbrella man stepped into view. Same black coat, same perfect posture, umbrella dry in air that wasn't. He raised one hand toward the rubble, not threatening, commanding. The buried limbs froze. A low, impossible sound shuddered through the clearing like earth inhaling. Then a single word carried without speaking. "Enough!" The creature's arm withdrew. The ground stilled. Elias stared at the umbrella man. "What are you?" The figure tilted his head slightly. He didn't answer. He turned and walked into the fog until he vanished. Shaw exhaled shakily. "Ward, what just happened?" Elias didn't know. But Myra was alive, trembling, staring at the forest like she expected it to call her name again. By dawn, paramedics had her loaded into an ambulance. She reached for Elias as the doors closed. "Thank you," she whispered. He stepped back, exhaustion flooding through him. Only when the sun rose fully did he notice. The word carved into Myra's forearm, "chosen," was gone. Not healed. Not scarred, erased, like it had never existed. Shaw asked quietly, "You think it's over?" Elias looked at the tree line. Ravenmoor was still, too still. "No," he said. "But for her, it ended tonight." He didn't add the part he felt tightening in his chest. Myra wasn't marked anymore. Now he was. Before you go, hit like and subscribe. More cases coming. Question for the comments. Would you trust the umbrella man, or run the moment you saw him?